Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Regan, and my colleague and I, Dr. Jonathan Cooper Smith, have put together a study abroad program for summer session one in summer 2021, focusing on traditional performing arts and history of technology. I work in the Department of Performance Studies, and my research area includes music composition, traditional Japanese music, modern Japanese performance, world music, and ethnomusicology. Japan is my research area, and I've been traveling back and forth to Japan for work, research, and graduate studies for the past 20 years. It's nice to meet you. Dr. Cooper Smith?
I am a historian of technology at Texas A&M. My work includes, among other things, a history of the fax machine, which meant that I did spend a year in Japan studying the major Japanese role in the history of the fax machine. Um, the class I'll be teaching, 361, it looks at history of technology since 1500, but includes a large dose of Japan taking advantage of the really exciting environment there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cooper Smith. So the course that I will offer as part of this program is called PERF 328, Japanese Traditional Performing Arts. And it's basically a survey of Japanese traditional performing arts from 7th century to the present day. This is a course that I actually offer every fall on campus, and many students have taken this course before. But of course, there are many more things that we can learn about, and especially because I have an extensive network of colleagues that I draw upon to enhance the course and give workshops when we're on the ground. Students who have taken this course on campus still may participate in this program simply by enrolling for a per 485 directed studies for 3 credits. So the 2 courses on offer will be PERF 328 and History 361, the history of technology and engineering in Western civilization, again with an option to take 45 for students who have taken PERF 328 in the past. It's open to all undergraduate majors, and as you can see on the slide, it's in summer session 1, which is scheduled to leave May 28, 2021, and returning to the United States on July 5th. So this is the narrative summary for the program. As you can see, our program offers a constellation of cultural, historical, and artistic experiences in one of the dynamic cosmopolitan cities in the world. This program is a 5-week short-term summer study abroad program focusing on traditional Japanese performing arts and the history of technology and innovation worldwide. Guest artists and scholars will enrich our classroom experience, and a field trip component will provide a context in which we'll be able to explore, experience, and examine Japanese performing arts and the evolving role of technology in traditional and modern Japanese society. Within the stimulating environment of Tokyo, we propose offering PERF 328 and History 361. So the course is on offer. As I mentioned, PERF 328 is a survey of traditional performing arts from 7th century to the present. And at the end of the course, I'm hoping that my students will be able to identify various genres of traditional Japanese performing arts, articulate their features, understand their aesthetic values, recognize important individuals and events in the development of the Japanese traditional performing arts, and be able to identify the social values expressed in these artistic forms. And the primary goal is to enrich and broaden your artistic horizons by being exposed firsthand to Japanese traditional performing arts.
History 361 looks at roughly technology worldwide since 1500 with a focus on Western Europe and on Japan. The goal is both to give you a sense of what happened, but also to give you a way of using technology to look at cultures, and in some ways, um, using cultures to look at how technologies differ from society to society. At the very least, you will never look at your laundry the same way again.
So we will take full advantage of being in one of the most culturally rich cities in the world with a number of program highlights that will take us outside of the classroom to experience Japanese culture on the ground. When we arrive, the next day, we will take an orientation walking tour in Tokyo, observing costume play culture and impromptu performances in Yoyogi Park, which happens every Sunday in the late spring and summer months. And then for my course, which includes an extensive field trip component, we will attend performances of traditional Japanese theater. We will take a Japanese drumming taiko workshop, experiencing folk music, singing, and dancing, visit the Tokyo National Museum, the Ghibli Museum. We'll also take a workshop in Japanese traditional wrapping cloth known as furoshiki, as well as group meal with university students and a traditional Japanese garden tour, among other trips.
The field trips that will be dealing with History 361 include going to a miso brewery to see how traditional and modern technologies mesh. The Borderless Digital Art Museum, which is talking about looking at future and contemporary technologies. When we're at Kyoto, we'll be taking a day trip to Hiroshima, and the Peace Memorial Museum is basically dedicated to the dropping of the world's first atomic bomb in context, and a National Technology Museum and Edo Tokyo Museum, which is a replica of 19th century Tokyo. It is a fascinating, literally larger than life experience.
As far as accommodations are concerned, in weeks 1 through 3, as well as weeks 5, the students will stay in shared dorm lodging in Tokyo. And during week 4, we will take the bullet train across the country to Kyoto, where all classes will be held on site at various historical and culturally significant sites in the city. During our time in Kyoto, the students will actually live with Japanese host families and participate in a homestay program. During the entire program, as I mentioned before, guest lectures will come to our class. These are prominent musicians, scholars, performance artists who are active in Tokyo and tell us about their various creative activities. And as I mentioned before, we will not be in a classroom per se during week 4 in Kyoto. Rather, all weeks will be held on site at various places around the city. And so in terms of nuts and bolts of the program, the application deadline is December 1st, 2020 at abroad.tamu.edu. The minimum GPA to enroll for a study abroad program is 2.0. And in order to participate in this program, you must enroll full-time for 6 credits per 328 or per 45 if you've taken 328, as well as History 361. Our program advisor, Erin Kibler, can speak to you about program costs as well as financial aid and scholarships and so forth that are available. So I'd like to, Dr. Cooper?
No, I'd like to say, because of the uncertainty about COVID, by early February at the latest, there will be a final decision whether this will go forward as a study abroad.
Thank you. So I'd like to talk more specifically about the schedule and the types of things that we're going to be doing and what your day and week will look like when we go to Japan. So here is the tentative schedule for week 1, Monday through Friday. As you can see, we have 3 hours of class in the morning, 75 minutes back to back with the traditional Japanese performance arts class, as well as history. And then there's a lunch break. And then on average, 2 to 3 times a week in the afternoons, we will be taking excursions together as a group. And during this first week, we have scheduled three excursions rather. One of them will be a visit to the National Theater of Japan to experience Japan's rich puppet theater, otherwise known as Bunraku. And then we will also take a visit to the Tokyo National Museum, which houses the largest collection of Japanese art in the world, and we'll spend time looking, doing a kind of find and seek assignment in which I'm going to ask you to find themes in our course that is reflected in Japanese arts. In particular, I'm very interested in teaching you about ukiyo-e. These are the Japanese woodblock prints that were created in the Edo period, the 260-year period of cultural isolation between 1603 and 1868, when Japanese performing arts as well as visual arts flourished. And what we find in my course is that the performing arts are often reflected in the visual arts. So that's an interesting excursion we have to look forward to. And then also, Dr. Cooper-Smith?
We'll be going to the Edo Tokyo Museum, which may or may not have served as the prototype for certain large machines in Star Wars. What this is a reconstruction of parts of 19th century Tokyo, back when it was called Edo. As you can see here, they've got both a wide range of objects, and the idea is to give you a sense what it was actually like to be in 19th century Tokyo. And what we'll see, this is a warm-up to looking at our environments as collections of technology, whether we're talking about 21st century Texas A&M or 19th century Edo.
During week 2, our schedule will basically continue in the morning, as usual, with the exception of Wednesday, the 9th of June, when we will work intensively with a folk music ensemble who will come to class and teach us how to sing in Japanese and dance to folk music. In this week, we're also going to be visiting the Mirai-Kan National Museum, which Dr. Cooper-Smith will explain about.
It is a wonderful way to look at both how Japan displays or promotes contemporary technology and science, but also how they use their past accomplishments to create a certain vision of Japan. And this is something that you'll see at any museum. But one advantage of doing this in Japan is that it allows you to come back to America and appreciate American museums in a different light. By the way, one of the really neat exhibits here is an earthquake counter.
This particular week, week 2, will be dedicated to folk music in my class. And so in addition to the folk music workshop that we'll take on Wednesday, on Friday we're going to be taking a day trip to the town of Chichibu, located approximately 50 miles northwest of Tokyo. And there we will take a Japanese drumming workshop and learn how to do festival music known as Chichibu Yatai Bayashi. During week 3, we'll still be in Tokyo, and we have this week a day trip to the Miso Brewery in Nagano Prefecture, as well as a kabuki performance and a group meal with university students for a kind of cultural exchange meeting. So a few words about the Miso Brewery.
As you can see, there's a lot of old technology there, wooden barrels, and we'll be taking a tour to see how miso is produced. And for those of you who are interested in beer making or sake making, this is a good way of understanding similarities and differences. And we'll get to go by train to Matsumoto, which in itself is a fascinating experience.
During week 3, we'll experience another one of Japan's 3 main theatrical genres, kabuki, which also thrived and flourished during the 260 years of cultural isolation in Japan, along with its kind of counterpart, Bunraku puppet theater. Rather than puppets, however, kabuki is performed by live actors in kimono, wigs, and white powder and makeup. Week 4 of the program is really quite robust. We will take the bullet train to Kyoto. You will live with Japanese families, and every day from morning to night, we will have excursions to various historical and cultural places around the city. As you can see right here, I mean, every single day there's several things that we're going to do, but some of the highlights include visiting actually Hiroshima for a day and seeing the Memorial Peace Park as well as the museum and the actual spot where the atomic bomb exploded in 1944. And what we learn is that there was one building actually that was left standing, and the Japanese government decided to, instead of take that building down, they left it so that the imprint of that memory will never be erased from the Japanese consciousness. And so it's very interesting when you go there because it's like looking into the past. So we can look forward to that in Hiroshima. Other highlights in Kyoto will include doing a session of Zen meditation in a Japanese Buddhist temple with a monk who will teach us how to meditate and lead us through a meditation experience. We're also going to visit a number of Japanese temples and gardens. The most well-known and iconic ones are Kinkakuji, the Golden Pavilion on the left, and Ryoanji, the famous rock garden on the right. During week 5, we will return to Tokyo for our last week of classes. There'll be group presentations during the last couple of days of class, as well as a performance of No Theater, which is a very austere form of theater performed with masks that thrived during Japan's medieval period. And with this performance, this will round out our exposure to the 3 genres of Japanese theater. Another trip will include
the TeamLab Borderless Digital Art Museum. One of the most exciting areas in contemporary art today is digitalization, and Japan is one of the world's leading countries in this. What this will be is a chance to look at cutting-edge technology, but also a chance to appreciate how it evolved, where it came from, and maybe even where it's going. It'll definitely be an opportunity to engage at least 4 out of the 5 senses.
And then finally, the last excursion that we will take will be to the Ghibli Museum. And this is a museum dedicated to the life and work of Hayazaki, who is Hayao Miyazaki, who is the creator of the Ghibli animation films. Some of you might know, like Princess Mononoke Hime, which has really become quite a global phenomenon. We'll learn about his life and work and actually have an opportunity to view a film that has not been released to the public. They always offer that for people who visit their museum. So some of you might know some of his films, and this is often the most popular trip that we take. And I didn't mention this before, but Dr. Coopersmith and I are leading this program for the first time together, but I have done this program before in a different form with a Japanese language component for 5 years in a row. So actually, this is the 6th time that I will be co-hosting this program. So I'm looking forward to, sharing my passion and enthusiasm for Japanese culture, music, and performing arts with you.
And I am looking forward to sharing my enthusiasm about the history of technology in a Japanese context, as well as learning a lot about Japanese theater myself.
So that concludes our presentation. So at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, if I can, and ask if any of you have some questions for us. Hi, Allison.
Hello. So, looks like Michelle types in the box, will this program only be available to undergraduate students?
So the program is designed for undergraduate students. However, the courses, but if a graduate student expresses interest, we can arrange to make our courses into 685, and the content will stay the same with the addition of a research paper and some one-on-one meetings where you'll be expected to demonstrate your engagement with the course material at the graduate level. So there'll be no changes in the course, but I can accommodate graduate students with a 685.
Can I? And indeed, we welcome that opportunity.
Yes, graduate students have participated in the course before, but we don't advertise it as such, simply because most students that participate are undergraduates. But if you'd like to participate, we'd love to have you. No, any undergraduate major can participate. Any major can participate.
Okay, now I'm seeing the chat. It will be.
It will be. I hope to have a chance to go to Japan together. It'll be great. It'll be great. I think you enjoy it. Michelle, have you ever studied abroad before? Maybe she didn't hear me. Oh, South Korea. Okay, great. Wonderful.
Oh, excellent.
Well, one of the things that we'll find is that Japanese musical history can be traced back, if you go back thousands of years, to the root of the Silk Road, of which Korea was the next to last stop. And so what we find is that there's a lot in common culturally between Japan and Korea, especially in regards to the performing arts.
And
I'm glad to hear that you've been to Japan before. It's going to be a very exciting time to be in Japan because, assuming that all goes according to schedule, it'll be right before the Olympics. So it'll be a very, quite a buzzing and lively time in Japan as they prepare to welcome the world to their country. Anything else, Michelle?
Well, you know how to contact us. It's on the flyer.